This is the Sufficient Podcast, your go-to place to living your soul's truth with courage, trust, and freedom. This is your pathway to letting go of disempowerment and connecting to the divine within. I'm Noha, your host and guide, and I am a spiritual teacher, coach, healer, TEDx speaker, and spiritual retreat leader. I guide people like you, the lovers of the divine, of consciousness, spiritual seekers, and of course, conscious entrepreneurs. Those of you who I know desire to live a more meaningful life with deep love, unconditional trust, ecstatic pleasure, and also radiant abundance. It is right here where we reflect out loud on matters of the heart and soul, and of course, with practical applications towards a fulfilling and authentic life. So let's take a deep breath in as we center ourselves, and let's begin. Hello and welcome back to the next installment of the Sufficient Podcast. Today I'm talking about love, and I'm going to describe the type of love that I'm talking about, because far too often we use this word love and it's random. Hey? It's so random that we use it willy-nilly, and we often use it more in the context of like, one, and two, in a romantic setting, we use it in the context of lust, right? Love in and of itself, as my mentor, Dr. DeMartini, will always say, it's the synthesis of complementary opposites. So what that means that it's the middle point, the exact middle point between highs and lows, between positive and negative, between light and dark. It is the center point that where you are in acceptance of both sides of the coin, both sides of a person, which is unconditional love, right? Unconditional love is the ability to accept and understand both sides of a situation, person, or experience. In order to say that I love you, it means that I love you even though there are certain things that I don't like about you. There are certain things that you do or say that, I may not agree with, but I still love you. And not because, I overlook them. I love you because I get to understand either your frame of reference or your perspective or the way you view the world, and I've placed myself in your shoes. I may not necessarily need to accept that. I may not need to adapt that as my way, but I understand that it's your way. And so because I understand that it's your way and I accept that about you and you, that is unconditional love. So very often on this podcast, I'm probably going to be talking about love. And I'm going to be referencing a lot divine love, because that really is my aim here in this world. And I think it's probably the very reason I've been placed on this earth, is to help people connect to divine love. It's to help people to feel into it and to receive it, and to help people know that they are forevermore imbued with it, that we walk with that very most magnificent and this vast well and ocean of love. But far too often we don't know how to tap into it, and we don't know how to receive it because we don't know how to tap into it. Now, from the state of love, we often talk about, and you hear a lot of us, I'm going to include all of us here, we speak about self-love. That buzzword, hey? We must love ourselves. I watched a reel the other day, and this woman was referencing self-love from the perspective of self-care. And she was referencing, and I don't know how true it is, but it made complete sense to me, that she was referencing the point that the concept of self-care and self-love came from Audre Lorde, who was a feminist activist, and it came at a time when she was ill. And the entire concept that she came up with, the reason why she came up with this, was because of self-preservation. Now, if you look around today, how often are we using the term self-care from a perspective of self-preservation? Or are we in fact using it as self-indulgence? Because you see, there's a massive difference between self-indulgence and self-preservation. You see, when we are doing self-preservation, we are wanting to preserve the whole of who we are, to fill ourselves up so that we could be more for others, right? And more for ourselves, of course, first and foremost. But self-indulgence is often that, how do I describe it? The me. The concept of, you know what, I'm just going to put up my boundaries and it's just going to be all about me. That's self-indulgent, right? Let's face it, we are not alone in this world. We may have arrived alone and we may leave alone, but we're not alone in this world. And so because we are not alone in this world, we have to find ways to live our full expression, to live our whole truth and our whole authenticity while others are still around us. So it doesn't make sense for us just to put a wall up with others and saying, no, I'm just having a me day today. Me days, there's nothing wrong with me days. There's nothing wrong in you taking time for yourself to fill your own cup so that you are preserving yourself, so that you are seeking healing, seeking wholeness, seeking balance for yourself. But we create a great imbalance when we are wanting to push others aside, to say, oh no, I don't have time for you today, or I don't feel for you today because, oh no, I'm taking a me day, right? So there's a lot that we need to take into consideration when it comes to the self-love concept, right? And some of the questions that we probably need to be asking ourselves is, how do we love ourselves? Do we know how to love ourselves? And what does that mean? Because let's take this context, or take this out of the context of ourselves and put this in the context of someone else. In order to love someone else, is it necessary for you to know them first? I'd say yes. So if the requirement to love someone else is foremost to know them, to get to know them, to get to know who they are, what they're about, what lights them up, what cheeses them off, then isn't it the same then for us, and probably more important for ourselves? I'd say yes. So this concept of self-love, of getting to love ourselves, truly love ourselves, is to get to truly know ourselves. And to know ourselves is a lifelong journey. I don't think it ever ends. And the reason why I say I don't think it ever ends is because we are forever evolving. And therefore we are forever changing. We are forever shifting, right? And so there are new parts of us that is being revealed to us. But getting to know ourselves is an important aspect of getting to love ourselves. But that getting to know ourselves is also greatly linked to getting to know the divine. And again, as I said in the previous episode, where is the divine? For me, it's in. It's inside. It's inside and everywhere around, but it's first and foremost inside. God is within me. And so to know thyself is to know thy Lord, or to love thyself is to love thy Lord. Then does that not mean that I need to know the depths of who I am in order to uncover the depths of who God is, so that I can love myself and thereby love God? Right? Now, I want to take this away from the perception that it might be a religious context. Right? And I want to put this in a different way and say, what if I said to you that to know the God within, the divinity within, the living experience and the living intelligence within you, right? Because that's God, that's Allah, that's source, right? The great beloved is the living intelligence, right? The supreme consciousness, right? These are all different names. The great reality, right? If getting to know yourself and the truest version of you, that journey is about getting to know your soul. And your soul is the Godspark. Your soul is the truest, most purest version of you. The outside of what we see, the way that we interact with others, that's personality, right? Personality is adaptable. Our personalities are often an expression of the ability that we have or don't have to fully unveil ourselves, to fully be our whole selves. So our personality is always going to reveal either what we are vulnerable to, what we've revealed about ourselves and uncovered about ourselves for ourselves, or it's going to show what it is that we are hiding about ourselves. Interesting, hey? So getting to know yourself and getting to know Source, the great beloved Allah, God, is to get to know the truest soul version of you. Now, why would I ever be encouraging someone to get to know the spirit self, the soul self, the God self? It is so that you can be led from there. It is so that instead of being led by the limitations of your own mind and the limitations of the knowledge that you only have up until now, it's to be able to take the soul's guidance, i.e. God guidance, to be led through life. And what that looks like, by the way, again, and I will sound like a stuck record when I repeat and say that following that God guidance or that soul guidance doesn't mean your life is a bed of roses. Because, and the reason why it's not going to be a bed of roses is because we, again, our personalities interfere, and our personalities is linked to our ego, right? And our ego sometimes just wants to play safe. It doesn't want to go into places that are unfamiliar, or experiences or thinking patterns that are unfamiliar. It wants to stay the same. The ego wants sameness, not difference. And so if it wants sameness, it is used to contraction and not used to expansion. You see, difference is what's going to expand you. It's going to stretch you. It's got an elasticity about it. So getting to know your God spark, your God self, your soul self, is about eventually being led by your soul, which gives you grander and newer and bigger experiences than what you've ever had before. And yes, I will be the first to tell you, it's going to be downright scary. Some of it is going to be scary, but scary with excitement. It's going to be that scary moment that, you have the butterflies and you can't quite ascertain, is that butterflies excitement or is it fear? It feels like both. And you're right. It most likely is, right? Some of us, and I'm always going to include myself, we will be overburdened by the scary part instead of the exciting part. Right? And what I mean by that is that we're going to unconsciously, right, most of the time, allow the fear to lead us instead of the excitement to lead us. Case in point, this podcast, 4 years in the making. 4 years have I been twiddling my thumbs in wanting to come out and bring this podcast out. There was great excitement, but there was also great fear. And so the fear kind of magnified itself in my mind, therefore in my personality, therefore in my actions and in my inactions, right? I.e. doing nothing about it. And it led up to me delaying this for 4 years. Was the delay all for naught? No, it wasn't. Of course, there's blessings in everything. In both our good experiences and our bad experiences. Our setbacks and our highlights. So very often, when we are choosing to be soul-led, we're going to come up with things that are kind of scary. But they too, even when we are sitting with that connection and that full knowingness, and I'm talking about the absolute knowingness that I am of God, and therefore I am sufficient because He is sufficient for me and He is within me. And so therefore I am protected. And therefore I am loved. And therefore I am never going to be given anything that I cannot handle. I'm never going to be given or taken down a path that isn't for me. And even if that path doesn't end up in what I'd originally thought or envisioned, the journey itself has already taught me so much and has expanded and grown me, right? So just taking the step towards what my soul is showing me is already showing me how much I am growing. It's evolving me just by taking the step. But the inaction, the not taking the step, it's going to cause contraction. And maybe one day, and I'll add this to the list of things that I want to talk about, but I also want to talk about someday about how contraction also actually helps us grow eventually. Right? So this whole path of getting to know ourselves and to love ourselves, because there also, between the excitement and the fear of putting something out, for example, if our focus is on loving ourselves, not in a pompous way, but with humility. If we love ourselves and we love, you know what, I'm not talking about loving the personality of you. I'm not talking about loving the physicality of you, although that is important. I'm talking about loving the essence of you. Because if you're loving the essence of you, you are loving the Godspark within you. And when you are loving the Godspark within you, it will inspire you more to take action. Because that ability to know that I am so deeply loved and that I love myself because I am loving the Godspark within me. When I love the Godspark within me, my faults, my limitations, my nafs seems small, firstly, but also it seems that I have the ability to overcome them, to face them. Part of this path of walking towards loving yourself and getting to know yourself is about being true to yourself. And being true to yourself means that you're going to have to unveil. But what does unveiling require? Unveiling requires that you face yourself. It means that you and I sit with ourselves and we ask quality questions. What is this feeling that I'm having? Where is this coming from? How am I genuinely and sincerely feeling today? Like, what's the truest form of how I'm feeling today? If I'm going through something, is there a perspective that I'm not seeing, that I may need to see in order to shift the way I'm feeling? Are there past significant emotional events and experiences that have tainted the way I see the world, the way I feel, the way I move in this world? Have I had a rejection or a betrayal, or somebody made me feel unworthy, that I can finally face and address, so that I can flip the script on that? Flipping the script doesn't mean that something didn't happen. It means that we finally get to see both sides. And this too is part of the self-preservation. You know, a friend once asked me, we were chatting on the phone, and I had a rant, I was ranting. And she said to me, "No, but how much do you love yourself?" And I very confidently said, "No, I do." Because anyone that knows me knows that I do love myself. But then she asked me the all-important question after that, and she says, in that self-loving, are you honoring you? Because self-love is honoring you. And I felt like she dropped a bomb on me, because I sat there and I thought, what does that mean? To honor me. To not necessarily need to be the consummate people pleaser. And also not just say no for the sake of no, but asking myself, does this honor me? If I do this, if I say this, does this honor me? And I took that a bit further, and I thought, when I'm having a conversation or a teaching or a coaching with someone else, what is the best way and the highest form that I can honor someone else? Because, you see, honoring someone else is honoring the divinity within them. If we strive to see the Godspark in others, then we will strive to honor the divinity within them as well. Does that mean that we're not going to have arguments with people? Does it mean that we're not going to get angry or enraged with people? No, we are. We still are, and we must never deny that human experience for ourselves. But there's always a learning. There's always a lesson. And that lesson is a blessing, right? Having arguments with someone and going afterwards to reflect and seeing, one, the error of your ways in parts or in whole, and then going back with apology, and then still reflecting on, but what made me say that? What within me felt that I needed to say that? What is the belief and the value or the event that had an impact on my life that made me think that it's okay to say that to someone? Because now the circle comes back. Honoring me. Honoring me means that I go back to the things that hurt me so that I can go and learn to love it. So that I can love myself whole. Loving ourselves is about loving all parts of us. Not just the good side, right? I know it's a stereotype, but I will still use it. So often us women, we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say, oh, I like that part of myself, oh, but I don't like this, and I don't like that, and I don't like this, and I need to change this, and I need to do more about that. And we often have a long list, particularly on our bodies and our features and our image. We have a long list of what it is that we potentially don't like about ourselves. And what we do love about ourselves is a short list. I hazard a guess that it's probably similar for men as well, but I mean, amongst myself and my girlfriends, this is a conversation that happens often. And one day I had to sit with that and say, actually, can I love the whole part of me? Can I love my pot belly? Can I love my double chin? Can I love my potty mouth? Can I love my eccentricism? Can I love that I sing songs, words, lyrics up, make them up as I go along? Yeah. Can I love the fact that sometimes I actually sound as if I'm dyslexic because I use words out of context and I make words up? Can I love all of those parts of me? The answer is yes. But it's a learned practice. It's a learned practice to be able to look at those supposed, and I put it in inverted commas, those supposed faults of ours and say, how does this serve me? How does my pot belly serve me? There's a benefit of this pot belly in my life. What is it? Because only until such time I know how it serves me and how it benefits me, then will I know how to love it. But if I'm always, or most of the time, just aggrieved by the things that I don't like about myself, I can't love myself in whole. So this entire journey of loving ourselves is not just about loving the good parts of ourselves. It's loving all the parts of ourselves. That's the unconditional love. Often, we want to hide from ourselves the faults that we perceive that we have, right? So yes, that sounds like a conundrum, but sometimes in our unconscious and subconscious minds, we have a perception of certain parts of our faults that we've stored, that we've hidden, that we don't want to face. Part of getting to know ourselves in whole is sitting and learning about those parts of ourselves. It's getting to know the parts that we find, I don't know, unlikable, maybe even disgusting. Things that we try to hide. Anything that we try to hide is things that we have shame about. And I can tell you now, shame erodes. Shame erodes. Shame becomes one of those things, like guilt, that we take on as human beings, and it starts to rule our lives. And it gives us a life experience with contraction and limitation. But more about that in another episode. So I hope in this conversation, as you're listening or maybe watching me, I hope that you are sparked in some way to learn or find out more about yourself, to learn to love all parts of you. The labels that you have given yourself or others have given you, to learn to love those, to learn to be fully immersed in getting to know all of you, the whole part of you, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Because in so knowing and in so doing, you're getting to know the divinity within you. And that, my darling, is just one of the most beautiful things to do. So I'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining me. All my love. Goodbye. And that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Sufficient Podcast with me, Noha. Be sure to tune in next time for more soul reflections right here. Also follow me in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss the next episode. And also, please feel free to engage with me in the comments below. You will find the links to all my social media handles and email address in the description box below. And of course, most importantly, if you feel the content can be helpful to someone you know, please share it with them. Right. That's it. I'm out. This has been the Sufficient Podcast, and I'm your host, Noha. Thank you for listening. Until next time, peace and blessings be unto you.